Welcome to my review of Get Out, directed by Jordan Peele, a satirical horror film centered on a Brooklyn African-American photographer who goes on a trip to meet his Caucasian girlfriend's peculiar parents at their desolate estate, equipped with a black groundskeeper and maid. So Get Out, again, is directed by Jordan Peele, and this is his directorial debut. And to kind of put it into perspective of what kind of film this is or what it's like, it's really kind of as if you take the social commentaries that are prominent in a Spike Lee film and place them in a movie that is directed by M. Night Shyamalan, a good movie directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Something in the ranks of maybe Split, a movie that I never did review, but I thought was actually quite good. Get Out has been receiving some really great reviews. I don't know if I can quite say that I'm up there with everybody else. That said, I do think Get Out is a pretty damn good film that doesn't only offer heaps of entertainment, but heaps of intelligence as well. Something that a lot of horror-type movies tend to be completely void of, unfortunately, because the studios like to think that mainstream audiences are fucking stupid, and that's just not true. At least most of the time, that's not true. Thankfully, Jordan Peele does believe that mainstream audiences are intelligent and that they fucking deserve some quality. By calling Get Out intelligent, I'm not just referring to the intellect of its characters, or more specifically its protagonist, who doesn't just fumble around making dumbass decisions left and right. I'm also talking about what this film offers for the intellectuals out there, and that is a social commentary on race relations from a black person's perspective. And it's a perspective that I find to be very refreshing, not just because it's Jordan Peele providing his perspective, but also because of the presentation, using comedy and horror to provide that perspective. Also throw in that I do find it to be quite necessary given that the tensions right now are just so freaking high. A good first half of this movie isn't so focused on the types of people who go to Klan rallies, it's more focused on the types of people who very loudly and proudly say that they are open-minded and that they are very much accepting of black culture. Those kinds of people who seem to be overcompensating a little bit. When Daniel Kaluuya and Allison Williams get to the house, it's a pretty awkward situation, not only because it's him meeting her parents for the first time, but she also forgot to tell them that she was in an interracial relationship. But what really makes it so damn awkward is just the things that the parents are saying, more specifically the father, because the mother is kind of reserved. I mean, the guy just hams it up with such statements like, if Obama were running for a third time, I would totally vote for him. He constantly refers to Daniel Kaluuya as my man. But what is probably my favorite, and I actually had to do a double take on this one, is when Daniel Kaluuya is being shown around the house by the dad, and he's showing him these candle holders that have these little orbs, and he uses the term ballin' to describe them. He's like, these are ballin'. Not only is that kind of awkward, but it's a fucking pun. It's these types of statements that are meant to provide the Daniel Kaluuya character with a feeling of wholesomeness, but instead they just come off as incredibly false and just a little crass. Which, again, I do think is Jordan Peele not completely condemning, but definitely satirizing and criticizing the types of people who say, I'm down with the black people, I'm hip, I like Tyga, I like black people, just as long as they don't wear hoodies. As far as the horror/thriller aspect of Get Out is concerned, a lot of the uncomfortableness, a lot of the suspense comes from the immensely bizarre interactions Daniel Kaluuya has with his girlfriend's parents, with his girlfriend's parents' friends, and there's of course the maid and the groundskeeper with their songs of the South-like personalities and those eerie as fuck grins they display, hinting that there could just be something amiss going on. These interactions are funny too, but they mostly prey off of nervousness. They provoke that nervous laughter. Now there are some jump scares in Get Out, and there has been some debate on whether or not that they are meant to be satirical. I believe that they are. They're funny, and even for the people where the jump scares did work on them, the people who did jump, the people whose hearts did skip into next week, laughter immediately followed. As for the performances, I can't say that I've seen too much of Daniel Kaluuya outside of Sicario and that second episode of the second season of Black Mirror, where he just completely fucking kills it with that monologue towards the very end. I mean, from what I've seen, he's a great actor. He is British and he does do a great American accent. Not only that, but he is just one of the most amazing criers I think I've ever seen. I mean, it's impressive. He's like a faucet with legs and feet. There's also Allison Williams, who is really good, who you may recognize from the show Girls on HBO that actually had a really good first season, basically before Lena Dunham became really, like, obnoxious. And I should also add that this movie does contain a comedic relief character played by Little Rel Howery, if that's how you say his name. Now, the risk of having these types of characters is that they sometimes can become a little annoying. I never once felt that way. I actually did find him to be funny, and not only that, but he does serve the plot. He does further it. As for any last statements, this movie does contain some good horror imagery. It is genuinely creepy in certain areas, and the movie also knows how to utilize sound quite well, specifically with a spoon screeching on the side of a teacup over and over. That shit set my teeth on edge. Overall, this is a great directorial debut by Jordan Peele that does contain something of relevance to say in a 2017 America that doesn't come across as overly abrasive. In fact, it's actually quite approachable, and that's kind of tough to do. That said, you can go into this film with your brain turned off. However, I still recommend going into it sober because that's where you'll get the most out of it. So with all that said, I'm going to give Get Out a 4 out of 5. If you are somebody who has seen Get Out, then do let me know your thoughts on it. And as always, I'm Colin Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.